2030 district. Thank you. Thank you, Kendall. Where I'm always laughing because that's the one thing I hardly have a hard time remembering to do. So thank you for coming here today. We have a great lineup of speakers. I will not be able to stay on, but you're in great hands with Kendall. She normally runs these anyways. And we also have our climate, healthy climate for intern Avi, who's going to be helping out. So you have Kendall and Avi. So you guys are in great hands. And Kendall's going to go ahead and give a short update as to what's going on with Detroit 2030 District. Just want to remind you that this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. And I will send that link out by Monday. It should be uploaded into our YouTube. So you guys have a great meeting, listening to some great speakers, and we will talk to you all soon. All right, I'll let you take it away, Kendall.
Thanks, Connie. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Hopefully you're all enjoying your lunch while you sit back and listen to our presenters today. I'm just going to give a brief update on the Detroit 2030 district, and then we will get started with Brian Finn from Wesco. So let me go to the next slide here. So just briefly, for those who are not familiar with the 2030 district, it all started from 2030 Architecture Challenge in 2005 by an architect named Ed Mazria. And this challenge was a challenge to architects and designers to build buildings better and reduce carbon emissions. So from that challenge, the 2030 districts formed beginning in Seattle and have now formed in major cities across the US. So this shows where some of these 2030 districts are. There's over 602 million square feet that have committed to reducing their carbon emissions by half by 2030 that are involved in these districts. In Michigan, we are really starting to lead the way. We now have 5 districts. Ann Arbor just recently expanded to Washtenaw County. Detroit, Grand Rapids, and Lansing is emerging. And just a little bit more information again about us. We are a private-public partnership, and we have 3 different membership types. So if there is a building located in the city of Detroit, that building owner or manager can enroll their property into our program as a building member. We also have professional stakeholders like the 3 that are here today to present, who support us financially, support our mission. And we also have community stakeholders, and these are other like-minded nonprofits in the city of Detroit that we partner with. So there's 3 different ways to join our program. We somewhat recently launched a new program, which is an EV charging station pilot. And this is currently available to our building members. So if you are interested, you can reach out to us to get information. We also have 3 best practice groups. So we bring together similar building types and hold best practice group meetings with those buildings. So one of our best practice groups is with Houses of Worship in Detroit. And we do have an upcoming Houses of Worship best practice group meeting that's going to be held in person at Christ Church Detroit later on in June. And looking forward to having several guest speakers to present to our group of Houses of Worship. And we also are having our 3rd annual Detroit Energy Challenge Awards breakfast. I actually saw Dan yesterday and maybe a few of you others in Grand Rapids for the Michigan Energy Summit and the Michigan Battle of the Buildings. So we are a part of that challenge, except we are celebrating our local Detroit specific buildings at this awards breakfast. This is held every year. It will be June 13th. 8:30 a.m. until about 11, and we're going to be hosting it at a new location this year at the Union Carpenters and Millwrights Skilled Training Center. And we have guest speaker Robert Jackson. He's the former director of the Michigan Energy Office and is now leading the Restart program at Lawrence Tech. And we also are going to be having Tefira Rushton, who's the new sustainability director at the city of Detroit, as guest speakers. So we hope you can join us. The Eventbrite is live, so you can get your tickets now. And I'll put a couple of these links in the chat. Just wanted to say thank you to our platinum stakeholders and our gold and silver partners as well. So thank you to all of the professional stakeholders who support our program and the work that we do. And our Detroit 2030 district supporters as well. And last but not least, all of the community stakeholders that partner with us on the work that we do in the city of Detroit. I guess just a few additional stats. So we have reached 62 million square feet total in the city that is enrolled in our program. We are closer to 500 buildings enrolled in the program now. We have over 40 professional stakeholders, over 40 community stakeholders, and we also have professional stakeholders who support all of the 2030 districts in Michigan as statewide. So we are now the third largest 2030 district in the country. We recently launched our 2022-2023 annual report, so you can find that on our website, and I will again try to put a couple links in the chat once we get started with the other presentations. And then lastly, just different ways that you can be involved in really building this movement for a carbon-free Detroit. You can enroll your building into our program as a building member. There are opportunities to sponsor some of our events throughout the year, including the Detroit Energy Challenge Awards Breakfast that's coming up in June. You can become a professional stakeholder or volunteer with us. So we are pretty open to hearing from anyone who's interested in being involved. So feel free to reach out to myself or Connie. So thank you. I'm going to stop sharing right now so that Brian can share his presentation.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and share here.
Thanks, Brian.
And let me know if you can see it, Kendall.
Yep, looks great.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for having us. I'm with Wesco Energy Solutions, and just to give you a kind of a quick snapshot, but Wesco Energy Solutions is a division of Wesco. Now, Wesco is a large Fortune 200 company that started way back 100 and some odd years ago as an electrical distributor. I'm going to specifically talk about Wesco Energy Solutions, but there we go. Just figuring out how to advance slides when I'm presenting, and it changed how I do it. But Wesco itself, as you can see, there are so many things that we do. And we've got Hong on the call as well. And anything that's not in my kind of purview, which is the lighting world, you can certainly reach out to Hong and she can assist with all of those efforts. So as you can see, Wesco gets into doing everything from, you know, simple wire and cable and electrical devices. You've got solar, EV charging, getting into automation, and the list goes on and on. And I am right here in this little bubble down here in the lighting world. So that's what I'll be talking about today. So as a turnkey retrofit partner, what does that mean? Well, typically Wesco as a distributor, you would be used to calling and ordering products and those sorts of things. And we actually, our division does full turnkey lighting retrofit projects. So we can do everything from small facilities to very, very large scale, whether you're looking at entire cities, or we've got some large retail chains that we do, you know, maybe hundreds or 1,000 stores nationwide. So we can really do anything in between. And you can see kind of a little snapshot of just last year, where we've got, you know, over 4,500 sites that we had retrofitted to LED. You know, the amount of square footage that we've audited is tremendous, and I'll talk a little bit about that. We also get heavily involved with all of the utility companies, and we go out and research all the rebates for you. So you can see all the rebates we were able to capture for customers throughout the year, over $4 million. So it's an all-encompassing approach. And when we look at how do we do it, not letting me advance the slide here. There we go. So when we talk about upgrading to LED, the thing that comes to everybody's mind is, hey, if we upgrade to LED, we can save energy. So energy saving initiative is the thing that comes to everybody's mind, but there's a lot more to it than that, and we can assist all along the way. For example, how much energy can we save? Another example is, how do we maximize those utility rebates? Is it purely about energy savings, or is there an initiative, maybe there's low light levels in certain areas and we need to address that and brighten the space up. So it really is a combination of how do you reach your goals, and in some instances it could be aesthetic reasons, it could be safety. So it's a balance between what are the goals you're trying to accomplish if you're upgrading your LED lighting in an energy efficient way, and how do we do that? So it all begins on our end with a phone call. With a phone call between you and myself, even an in-person meeting. And that's just to discover kind of what are your goals for the project? What are you trying to do? Is it purely about how quick can I get a payback, or are there issues at hand where you want to look at controllability? We want to look at enhancing lighting in spaces, and we'll look at some of those requirements and have all that data in front of us, so that eventually we can go out and work with you to conduct a full site audit. And during that audit, we're going to have someone that's out there capturing how many fixtures are there, what types of fixtures, where are they located, how are they mounted, what's the exact wattage of those fixtures. All of that information comes back to us so that we can design a system to meet your goals. Again, the goal could be purely how much energy can we save, or it can be a combination of, hey, let's still save energy, but we really need to brighten up the space. We're looking to increase productivity. We've got a safety issue. We're looking at controllability, and we'll design a system just for you. During that process, we are a trade ally with most utilities throughout the country, and we'll go out and research any available rebate dollars that you would have coming to you, and we'll show those right on the proposal. And I've actually got an example of a proposal, one of the pages of a proposal that I'll go ahead and show you. But we handle all of the purchasing of the material. We hire we have on staff project managers, a team of project managers that will oversee the project as Wesco. We do use some subcontractors to install the material, but there will always be a personal contact from Wesco controlling that project. So all the way through installation, regulations, if there's specific city requirements or whatever there may be, we're going to adhere to all of those. We get into even financing options if that's something you're looking for, all the way through to the end, where some of our competitors at the end might leave the job site with a stack of cut sheets of material, and that's where you go. If you have a warranty issue, you got to go back to the manufacturer. We don't do that. Everything is still one point of contact through Wesco, and we've got a specific team that handles warranty issues if anything were to come up. So here is an example of one of the pages of a lengthy proposal. On that proposal, we get into a lot of really into the weeds on, hey, here's the exact fixtures we found. These were in the women's restroom. These were in the corridor. These were in Joe Smith's office. These were here. So we'll get very granular on where everything is. But I just wanted to kind of give you a snapshot of how our proposal looks. So we're going to show you what's that total project cost. What is that rebate that we'll be able to capture for you from the local utility? And then obviously the net project after you pull the rebates out. And then the financial metrics, payback, internal rate return, NPV, the savings that you get over a 10-year period, even after you take out the project cost. And then we get into some environmental stuff, CO2 reductions, how many trees have been planted. It becomes a sustainability initiative for us. And then you can see at the bottom that we do get into, okay, here's all of your savings. And then we get very granular on where did those savings come from. So you can see the blue column is here's your existing spend on energy. And the green is what we propose we will do when you put in a new energy efficient solution. And then that pie chart kind of shows you which comes from lighting, which comes from controls, how much of that savings from maintenance, because we're calculating in a certain spend per year that you're going to have to spend on replacing lamps and ballasts. So it's all done in dollar formula. And then you can see in that particular example, there was a 64% savings from prior lighting technology to when we put in the new. And then we break it down as far as kilowatts and kilowatt hours and those sorts of things. So just to let you know, I'm on the sales side. Wesco obviously has so many different parts of what we do. Wesco Energy Solutions, we're similar. We've got teams of people willing to help in each particular part of the project. So I'm on the sales side, we've got a rebate team, and their whole goal is just to work with the utilities to capture rebates. We've got engineering teams that help put the solution together to meet your goals. A solutions team, we got audit teams that go out and actually conduct all the audits. Project management, they're going to oversee as that project's getting installed. So it's an all-encompassing full turnkey lighting retrofit that can be as simple as replacing lamps to, hey, let's look at more long-lasting fixtures, more lengthy warranty. Let's look at advanced controls. Maybe we want to look at IoT on the control side and capture data and be able to control these things with software packages and zone them. And we can get as simple or as advanced as you need to be. So that being said, there is my contact information, and I've got Hong's information on there too. And I think, Hong, I think you wanted to say just a couple of words and make an introduction.
Sure.
But anyone has any questions? I think Kendall wanted to reserve those for the end, so I'll just quit talking at this point.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Hello, everybody. I'm Hong. I'm the local sales rep here in Detroit, and I think some of you might have seen me running around networking and connecting people with resources and things like that. And today, I think I was able to get a very special guest to your peer, actually, to share with you the experience that he's got working with the Wesco Energy Solution turnkey. So I would like to introduce everyone to Mark Savage with CBRE.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Hong. Appreciate it. I don't know if I can live up to the expectations of special guests, but I'll try my best here. Yeah, so my name is Mark Savage. I am the Energy and Sustainability Project Manager for CBRE on the Johnson & Johnson account. I've been working with Hong and the Wesco team for about 2 years at this point, and I know that they offer a massive amount of services to their clients, but my relationship with them so far has been mainly focused on the LED lighting and upgrades portion of what they offer. And to that end, they've created 12 different proposals for us already for 8 different sites in those 2 years. And the proposals are very detailed, as Brian demonstrated. They have about 30 more pages than just the one Brian showed there. So it's a lot in there. And I'm used to people handing me, a price and maybe a written scope of work if I'm lucky, and then just sending me on my way. So it's a really nice change of pace to have everything at my fingertips there. So far, we have a total of about 4 million kilowatt hours annually in savings worth of LED upgrades in the pipeline from Wesco, which equates to about $500,000 in savings annually for Johnson & Johnson. And Wesco has been very patient with us throughout this process. For those of you in large organizations, you know how many hoops there are to jump through and how many different approvals and opinions you have to get at every step of the way. And some of these proposals are on revision, 7 already, and we've changed the entire scope up. We've changed electrical subcontractors, we've changed fixtures, and the Wesco team has been nothing but helpful and patient with us throughout the entire process. So we really appreciate that. Their full turnkey offerings that we've been taking advantage of include the audit and design, fixtures and materials, installation, project management, rebate and warranty administration, and disposal and recycling, which is things that we would all have to do on our own if we weren't using them there. So they make it really easy for us. Not to mention gathering the quotes from multiple electrical subcontractors and finding us the best price possible from their audit. So that's very helpful on my end. And the projects that we have completed together already on smaller scales have gotten very positive feedback so far from the site teams, both during their installation and after their installation. I'd say overall, I felt very, very satisfied and lucky to have a partner like Wesco throughout these projects. And honestly, I wish they were around to help me with some of my other energy projects too, so I could slack off a bit more, but we'll stick with LED lighting for now. So yeah, very, very happy with the Wesco team so far and everything that they offer.
Yep, all of that, and we didn't even owe him $20. Thank you so much, Mark. And I think I really appreciate your time and everybody's time. We are going to step aside for the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody from Wesco and Mark. Yeah, so we will move on to the next presenter. And again, if you have any questions for any of the presenters, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll have time at the end. And then we also can, if you feel like it, turn your camera on and we can just have folks ask their questions if they'd like at that point. So, but I'm going to turn it over to Dan Henderson for the next presentation.
All right, thank you, Kendall. Let me quickly here get my screen share. Can you guys see it okay?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. So Brian, Hong, and Mark, thank you for the education here. It was pretty illuminating. Pardon the pun there. But no, it was a great job. Tough act to follow. So I'm going to do my best here to unpack some pretty interesting stuff. And really, this is going to be really understanding the evolving commercial solar market in Southeast Michigan. I'm sure at this point we are all no stranger to the Inflation Reduction Act, or it's being known now as the Climate Legislation Act. So we're going to really unpack that because, as we saw this roll out a couple years ago, really exciting stuff. But what we're seeing is further guidance and enhancement to some of this. So we're going to again unpack some of what's new and available in the Southeast market because we're really excited. So real quickly before we dive into that, I always like to kind of give just an overview or synopsis of how solar works. And very often solar is pictured as being a roof-mounted array, very common installation methodology, often because of site constraints, size, availability, things of that nature. But solar does indeed come in many shapes or sizes. We've seen roof, ground mount, we've seen carport, you name it, it comes in all shapes or sizes. But regardless of the implementation method, oftentimes the methodology is the same for what we would be exploring as behind the meter solar. And the way that works is we would have our solar generating asset collecting photons and accelerating the number of electrons. And as a result, we are pushing power in the form of DC or direct current down into an inverter. And this inverter is paired with the site-specific requirements. Often it's going to be the site voltage. So, if this site here was running 208 volt three-phase power, this inverter is going to take that raw DC power and convert it to a 208 volt three-phase alternating current. From there, it's fed into the main switchboard or main distribution panel. Several phrases for that piece of equipment. From there, that power, like any form of electricity, I always like to joke, it's lazy, right? It's looking for that least path of resistance, i.e. what load or consumption can we satisfy or negate on site. So during those daylight hours, we want this solar array to be produce as much power and send it into the building and be that primary source of power, with the idea that the utility during that daylight hour would then be your supplementary source. Again, site constraints and things like that do impact what kind of offset we can attain or realize. So every site is certainly unique or different. Depending on system size, there's also the ability to sell that excess generation back to the utility. And we will kind of unpack that a bit further, but that is what's known as distributed generation, which Michigan participates in. Why more and more Michigan business owners are turning to solar? The benefits they're compounding, right? The largest and one we see is the most attractive is going to be, hey, I want to mitigate my rising operational expenses. I would envision that the electric bill is probably one of the larger items on your balance sheet, and it's not one we like to pay. We like paying our employees because they're turning profit, right? They're going home and supporting their families, but that electric bill ever increasing, even with the efforts that we're seeing. I would even challenge a lot of you to look at your homes, right? We're getting more energy efficient appliances and LED lighting and numerous of things, but yet our electric bills are still increasing. It's as a result of that ever increasing rate. We're seeing sustainability become a huge impact, right? So now we're finding that this is one of the largest, larger hanging fruit of a carbon offset you can achieve by going solar. But I think one thing that is often missed is the marketing. And I've touched on this before, and I still think it has an unbelievable opportunity to really separate and differentiate yourself, right? Like I've used the example in the past, we're working with a brewer who's up in Mount Pleasant, and their goal was to be, because it's a college town, I want to have the greenest green beer on St. Patrick's Day. And I drank that beer. So but there's a lot of other things here we see with compliance being another one, right? My largest customers are encouraging that they have sustainable suppliers. I've heard things like, hey, if I don't go sustainable or renewable, I'm not going to lose my relationship with my largest customer, but I may not be awarded new contracts. So we're seeing a definite evolution here as a direct result. Again, I touched a little bit on this is a large opportunity to reduce your carbon footprint. I want to show you a project here. This is a emission reduction example for a project we're going to be building here in the upcoming months. It's a 693 kilowatt system. And that system, year one, is going to produce 738,000, just a little over 738,000 kilowatt hours. And thanks to the EPA, there's an unbelievable calculator that you can put that information on your year one solar production. That's year one we're looking at. And the numbers are pretty astounding. This is the equivalent of, if they install solar, this is the equivalent of 1,319,545 miles driven by an average gasoline-powered passenger vehicle. 1,195 barrels of oil consumed. This is just a year one impact that this business is going to make. This is going to be a huge impact to their partners and their customer base that is really looking for that sustainable partner. And it's really exciting to see how they're not operating their business any differently, yet they are making this impact and offering us all a more sustainable future. Now, I talked a little bit about system sizing constraints, every site being specific, and I talked about participation in being able to participate in distributed generation or sell that excess generation back. And previously, participation here in Michigan was capped at 150 kilowatt AC, which is typically looks like 3 large commercial-sized inverters. That equated to about a 220 kilowatt DC system, which is roughly 250 or so solar panels, depending on the individual panel wattage. We were really excited to see that recent legislation has made some positive changes. We have now the ability to participate in distributed generation up to 550 kilowatts AC. This means we now, when we were going up to 220 systems, we can now see a system install at closer to 800 kilowatts DC and still be able to participate and sell that excess generation back. Because one thing we observe here in Michigan is heavy seasonalities. The winter months, January, February, November, December, those 4 months equate to about 15, maybe 20% of your annual production. So we're optimizing these for those spring, summer, and fall seasons. Another thing that was really exciting that's available through the utility program is previously, you'll see I have two boxes highlighted here. The green box is the power supply charges. This is what it costs to generate that electricity. In the orange box is signaling that the delivery charges, what it costs to deliver to your business. Well, prior, we were able to take any credits that you did accumulate as a business and apply those towards that green box, those power supply charges, which left those delivery charges with some volumetric charges. In this example here, we had $1,015.29 in a volumetric charge. Well, now the credits that you generate can also be applied to the delivery charge. Anywhere that you see volumetric charge, in this case, the 23,502 kilowatt hours, we can first and foremost reduce the demand from the utility because you're sourcing it on site, and any excess you have that you don't need, you can't consume in that moment, that will be sold as a credit and further apply and reduce this electric bill. So what we're gonna start to see is smaller banks of credits, because we're gonna ultimately observe smaller electric bills. So this is good news all around, because more of your power you can apply to your billing. Now the incentives. Solar has always been a pretty incentive-friendly project. We're really excited. There's a federal depreciation, typical 5-year schedule, a state level depreciation, but the one we're most excited about was, thanks to that Inflation Reduction Act, a reinstatement at 30% is your baseline tax credit. This is for any for-profit taxable entities. There is a direct pay incentive, which is available to the 501c3s, the non-taxable entities, houses of worship, that we're very excited about. And if there are any houses of worship or any 501c3, anybody who would like some more information, please feel free. At the end, I'll have my QR code up again. Feel free to scan it. It has my virtual card. Please reach out to me. I can support you with some additional information if there's any questions. But I'm sure you probably are wondering why I said a baseline 30% tax credit, because that Inflation Reduction Act was a vehicle, or almost a catalyst for additional opportunities to increase your tax incentive. The one we are most excited about is the Energy Community Tax Credit. And this is, there are 3 ways an area can qualify as an energy community. Coal closures, after if they coal mine closed after 1999, metropolitan statistical areas. This could be things available with significant unemployment or local tax revenues from fossil fuels. And then we have brownfields. And as you can see here on the left-hand side, we've got an example of the areas that are applicable for this. And I'm sure you're probably also there thinking, okay, the solar guy probably needs to study his geography a little bit, because we're talking about Southeast Michigan, and none of those apply. We are extremely excited that there was recent guidance released, and this is just a few weeks back, that actually expanded this credit. And now we've added 7 additional Michigan counties: Monroe, Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, Livingston, Lapeer, St. Clair. It's really exciting to see how these, just to go back and talk to some of the customers I have been speaking with and see the impact on the pro forma itself by adding this additional incentive. This is compounding on the 30% in depreciations that are already in place. It is also important to know that this list, those that would potentially qualify for future years, it's dependent on those local unemployment rates. So we could see some of these drop off, get added. It'll be interesting to see how these kind of look going forward. But we're really excited to see this credit expansion. It further supports the development and growth of renewable energy here in Michigan. I'd be remiss if I didn't end with a case study. So I'd like to share Willie's Overland Loft. I'm really excited about to share this one, because as Connie had mentioned, or I'm sorry, Kendall had mentioned that we were at the Michigan Energy Summit and Battle of the Buildings in Grand Rapids yesterday, and our friends over at the Willie's Overland Loft were recognized for further reductions since we've installed solar, just with all their positive efforts. So kudos to that team. It's really great to see all that they're doing and continue to do. But we had installed a 94 kilowatt solar array, a ballasted roof mount installation, which was going to produce about 119 megawatt hours, or 119,000 kilowatt hours year 1, which equates to 83.1 metric tons of carbon dioxide saved. Again, this is a year one metric. That is the equivalent of 20 gasoline power passenger vehicles driven for 1 year, 91,000 plus pounds of coal burned, 192 barrels of oil consumed, and 16.4 homes electricity use for an entire year. And I always like to point out that what the beauty behind solar is these positive impacts are being made without no switch to their daily life or any of our customers having to switch up their organization or their daily processes. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today. Feel free to take down my information, or you can scan the QR code. If there are unanswered questions by the end of it that we don't get to discuss here today, please reach out. I'm always open to a solar conversation. In fact, I'll probably talk solar longer than anybody would care to listen. So feel free to connect. I'd be delighted to.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for giving a shout out to Willie's Overland Lofts in Midtown too. I mentioned that Dan and I were at the Michigan Energy Summit yesterday, and we were very happy that 4 of our Detroit 2030 district building members were awarded as biggest losers. And we will be celebrating our local Detroit buildings at the Detroit Energy Challenge Awards breakfast in June. But I would like to introduce and move on to our next presenter. Thank you, Dan. Would you mind unsharing your slides? And then Alan Deal from Performance Engineering Group is going to be our final presenter. And again, Alan, while you're getting ready and sharing your slides, I'll just remind everybody that we'll have time at the end for questions for all of the presenters. Alan, are you there? We might have time for some questions right now while we're waiting for Alan. Are there any questions from the group at this time? And feel free again to come off mute, turn your camera on if you'd like. Do you have any questions for our first 2 presenters? All right, well, I'm not hearing any questions. Hopefully Alan's not having trouble on his end with his computer.
I see that he's on here, but he's on mute still.
Yeah. Okay, well, we might end up wrapping up early today. But again, I just wanted, here, let me turn my camera on, say hello to everybody, and feel free, again, if there are questions, feel free to raise your hand now. Otherwise, we might end up wrapping up early.
Unmuted.
There you are.
Well,
You're muted.
good thing we waited.
Alan, can you hear me?
Come on.
That might be the problem. Alan might not be able to hear us.
Come on. Here we go.
Alan, can you hear me? I can hear you.
I'm not able to get through.
Thanks for everybody's patience. Hopefully we can get Alan connected here.
Come on.
All right, well, I think we need Alan to leave the meeting and come back in because something's not working on his end.
Well, I'm trying to make this presentation work and I apologize. This is regarding to use of heat pumps, which seems to be the end all for everybody's cure for energy woes. And we've been doing quite a bit in that space with different utility groups around the country. So I can't hear you. And if you need to interrupt me, I'm not sure how we're gonna do that. We may have to continue with the texting because I'm not getting two-way conversation here.
Okay, Alan.
I got you. Now I hear you.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Thank you. Anyways, so let's jump into this.
Alan, did you want to share slides at all?
I thought I have them set to share, but it says I only have a choice to present in Teams, not in share screen. So I'm trying to do that. So
Try to do it right now. Try it again.
You may have
Okay.
to give him privilege, Kendall. When I just clicked on the button, just to see what's going on, it says to me disabled share. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you share privileges.
Yeah, he's co-host, so he should be able to do it now.
sorry about that.
No worries.
What would it be without technical difficulties, right?
There you go. It's always celebratory when things go off smoothly, so.
Yeah. Let's see.
Kendall, I can try having it so that all participants can share screen and not just hosts. I don't know if that would help.
Ellen should be able to, just might, yeah, he's co-host, so he should be able to pull it up.
Sorry. I'm not finding a setting that's letting me adjust it.
And Ellen, if you want to get started presenting, if you want to forward the slides to me, maybe I'll be able to pull them up while you're presenting.
All right, let's do that.
Okay.
It's gonna take me just a second. Get it? Do we have it? Are we still connected?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it to come through.
Okay, good. All right.
But if you want, there it is. I've got it. So you go ahead and get started and I will pull up the slides while you're speaking.
All right, very good. A lot of discussions out there just about every day about what the next technology should be, and everybody seems to be leaning into heat pumps. And we have versions of heat pumps, all types of versions of heat pumps out there. A lot of people don't understand some of the limitations of heat pump systems, and that's part of what our education has been on, to help customers understand what might need to be modified in your building to accommodate heat pumps. And we've been doing a lot of pilot projects. We've just wrapped up about 6 different pilot projects in the state with different utility groups to help them introduce their customers to the concept of heat pumps. And when I say heat pumps, not all heat pumps are electric. The heat pumps we're working with are running on natural gas. Now, some people would say, well, why would you want to do that? The challenge is right now, our grid is not all 100% renewable and clean. We still use a lot of fossil fuels to generate most of our power. And that's going to be that way for the foreseeable future until we can get transition to further into the renewables that are going to be all solar or wind or whatever, geothermal. So what we are doing is giving people an alternative to accommodate their building in a heat pump mode using yet the technology that they have available, which is natural gas and electricity. And in that format, they are able to understand the limitations of what heat pumps can and can't do and how they'd have to modify their building. And again, we've done many pilots here with the utility groups to help people understand this so that they can begin to okay. End of the day, we've done a variety of centers. We did a counseling center up in Port Huron where they had an existing electric chiller outside. They had a boiler inside at 1 million BTUs, and it was all long in the tooth. It was probably 40 years worth of age, and we're not able to move forward with progress without some assistance from the gas company up there. So they came along with an idea that was pretty slick and said, we can help you by giving you some heat pumps and an upgraded boiler system that will run on natural gas, but it's going to be running at a very high efficiency rate. And the end of the day, we replaced that system. And throughout this winter so far, we've not needed to run the boiler system at all to get higher temperatures. And that's there in case they want higher water temperatures because of their type of mechanical delivery system. So they were pretty excited about that. And that's been running well. Of the other 5 pilots, one's in a set of condos, one's a church. One is actually now a really cool site. It's down in Monroe. It's a recovery center for dogs that are wayward. They don't have a home or a place. It's an alternative to destruction or the dog pound, and kids that are a little bit out of sync with the community and they need a little bit of direction. So they made up the kid who has the social issues with a dog who's got no master, and they give the kid a responsibility to take care of something instead of having not much to do. And it's a pretty unique program. It's been around for about 15 years. This is now their newest home. It's a repurposed school building where we had a mechanical system that ran on natural gas and electricity. And it had classrooms that were converted into meeting spaces that are now converted into boarding areas for the dogs and the training areas for the kids to train the dogs. So it's
Alan,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Would you let me know which slide you're on?
I'm not on any slide. I'm waiting to catch up to the slide. So if I'm on, we could get to slide number, that's all the way down at the end, actually. We're talking those 7 active sites, which is slide 11.
Nope.
Okay. If we can go back up to slide 2, that would be great. And we can start from telling you what the story is supposed to be about.
There we go.
Okay. And this pilot information that we're sharing with you comes from us from the natural gas energy providers in Northern Illinois. They are very similar to our climate in terms of number of heating degree days. They wanted to try a heat pump in a northern exposure where typically heat pumps are not applied. And when you say heat pump, they don't always have to be geothermal. They can be air to water, water to water, or whatever. Ours happen to be air to water, and they run on natural gas. And when we look at the degree days of the target Rockford, Illinois, where they did this testing, we compare that pretty likely to Jackson, Michigan, and they're very similar within a few 100-degree days of each other. So we thought it would be a relevant explanation. Why do I want to share this information with you? Well, right now, with everybody thinking the electrification of everything is going to be great, it will be when we get clean power. But right now, we're still fairly dirty. So we want to talk about what's today's reality look like. And if we put a gas heat pump in Detroit and we let it run here, we can get water as high as 140 degrees out of it. That's hot enough to heat most buildings if it's properly configured. And if you look at this, you can see that we're above 100% effectiveness with the energy we're consuming, electricity and gas, in total to achieve a plus positive impact. So we're generating power through the use of the ambient energy in the air with natural gas and a small amount of electricity. And in this test, they were comparing different technologies. And if you see this next slide here, which is the side that says results in source energy, it shows that the electric heat pump far and away is the lowest energy consumer of site energy. Site energy being the key operative here. Site energy is what you're using on the site where you're generating the need. Second place is the natural gas heat pump, and it comes in probably 50% higher than the electric heat pump. So it doesn't look great for the electric heat pump, or for the gas heat pump to be a better advantage, but until we take a few other things into consideration. And beyond the natural gas heat pump, you see a traditional condensing furnace, which is more than double what the electric heat pump is in terms of energy consumption. That's just site energy. And then your baseline typical 80% furnace that most houses have around here in Southeast Michigan would be almost 2.5 times what the electric heat pump would be. So seeing those metrics in context says at the site, the electric heat pump wins. The problem with the electric heat pump is it has to be generated from some other fuel. If you don't have wind or solar or nuclear there, you're going to take some other form of energy, transform it into electricity, and that's going to create an energy penalty for you because you had this cost of conversion. So they call that the source energy usage. And the source energy is what you had to use plus the site energy to get that device to function. So second place moves up to first. We went up about 10% on the site source energy total. We went from 24 to 27 MMBH to run this typical house in Northern Illinois. And everybody moved up, but the heat pump dropped down and it went to almost triple the amount of energy that was used to consume and produce and transport the electricity to that electric heat pump. So there's the problem with electrification of everything. Until we get clean power, solar, wind, geothermal, hydroelectric, anything that doesn't require combustion, you have a transfer penalty that's pretty high. It's basically twice what you're going to consume in your building. You're losing 2/3 of what you generated, what you consume to generate your power. So that's the problem with electrifying everything right now until we have good, clean sources that can produce it in abundance. Solar, wind, those are the ones we want. We just can't get enough of them, and it's going to be a while till we get there. So when you look at that and you add that total up, you see, okay, most people don't really worry about how much they're using. They're worrying about how much it costs. That's the typical driver of most people's mindset, right? They want to know, how much is it going to cost me to run this place? And when you get to that point, you see this typical 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom townhome. The gas heat pump has the lowest operating cost, about $300 a year, and the electric heat pump has the highest at $640, more than double. Your gas furnace was 30% higher than the gas heat pump, but it was still 30% lower than the electric heat pump. So if people are doing things on an economic basis and a decision basis, they're not going to pick the electric heat pump because it's going to cost them too much money to run. When you got people that are borderline with being able to pay their bills already, and you add that onto it, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to make that work. So the conversation is, there's a lot of things that have to go into this decision making. Yes, eventually we're all going to be on electric something because it will be the best choice, because it's not going to be destructive to our earth. It won't be as destructive to get all those resources out of the ground. We're going to capture them from what's in the ambient atmosphere. So short factor here is it's more than 2 times as expensive to run an electric heat pump. You can run your electric or your baseline furnace for less money than you can run an electric heat pump. So just jumping from the electric gas furnace to the electric heat pump, you're still going to be paying more money to do it. And so not everybody's in that position to do it. So when you look at total emissions, again, with the sources that we have for our electricity, the electric heat pump is not the most economical, but certainly not the most environmentally complementary either, unless you're getting it all from a pure resource. And it's going to be a while before we get there. So these projects that we've been working on, these collections of projects that we've been working on are all over the state. They're in extreme climates, they're in milder climates, they're in all kinds of places and all kinds of applications, trying to vet out, what does reality look like when you start trying to implement. And when you see your sources of energy and you see this loss of translation, where you go from 100 MBH of input and you're only getting 36 MBH of delivered capacity, that's a big penalty to pay. When you send natural gas down the pipeline and you put it into a heat pump that's going to actually amplify the energy, take it from that 91 BTUs back up to something over 100%, you're now generating power, you're generating energy through the use of combustion and the use of the ambient atmosphere. So these combined features allow for us to make some pretty good headway on environmental less damage, but without having to deal with waiting for all this electrification or clean power to show up. And these are the projects we've got going on. These are small systems that are typically placed in, like I said, churches, condos, office place. We're doing bigger and bigger buildings all the time. We've done some buildings that are fairly large, 180,000 square feet. They're not small buildings, but that are using multiples. And they were upgrades from older technology to new technology. I would say that of the pilots we got, these condos are probably a testament. We have, the typical problem you have with a condo where one person wants their unit to be 85 degrees all the time, every day, and everybody else wants it to be 60. So there's always the argument over the thermostat. The churches, they're typically archaic, old hydronic systems. They have baseboard heat. We're working with how to adapt baseboard heat to work with heat pump temperatures and a condensing boiler if needed. The counseling center is the one that's really the shining star. It's a smaller application. They have heating and cooling, and they have a situation there where they've never really turned on their backup boiler. They haven't needed it. And the senior apartments, we're just making domestic hot water for them. We think it's a good application for domestic hot water because they use a lot of it. We're doing a couple DTE pilots and consumers, one here in Livonia. Just came online where we're heating a pool for an athletic club and we're heating domestic water. And then we're doing another one in an apartment project. We're going to make some domestic water for them as well. So when you look at where does your energy come from? And I've got just a 2-year-old slide here. It's from where we were in 2022. And you can see that DTE's mix is pretty dirty. It's 54% coal, 15% natural gas. So that's 68. That's 2/3 of their power. And you can see their renewables total is almost what natural gas is. So it's a little bit tough. They got a lot of wind component, which is nice because that's the kind of stuff we want, but we need a lot more of it to make it a bigger dent in the impact there. When you see that spread out, you see natural gas is going to be taking over a lot of the coal operations because that's an easier fix, an easier jump, but it doesn't reduce all of your emissions. It gets your reductions down because you're better off burning natural gas than you are burning coal, but you're still burning a fuel and you're losing 2/3 of that energy in the process of conversion. So one of the things that is unique about Michigan is we have the second lowest natural gas prices in the country. And the only reason we have the second lowest natural gas prices in the country is the only people that have it less expensive with us is Louisiana and the other states that produce natural gas and ship it. We buy it when it's on sale. We're going to start buying natural gas like crazy in the summer here because we stick it back in the ground. We can do that. We have storage capacity that can hold more than a year's worth of capacity. So that gives us a pricing advantage. It makes natural gas considerably less expensive than electricity, which is another factor working against our electrification rule because people want the least cost option. And that is the least cost option for them. So we have to work around that. We'll get past it sooner or later, but right now, that's the reality. Our electric prices, on the other hand, are on the higher side of the United States. You see residential rates are 15 to 20% bigger and higher than the national average. So that makes it hard for people to make that transition from getting very inexpensive natural gas to paying for very expensive electricity and using much more quantities of it than they're used to, higher quantities. So it's a hard transition, and it's one of the reasons that people got excited about these heat pump pilots. And I said, we've done a large number this past year, and they're all in unique applications. We're not just looking for cookie cutter, we're looking for diversity. And so far, we've been able to hybridize a lot of buildings to adapt to using heat pumps with supplemental heat or without supplemental heat. And our goal here is to help us buy time on this quest to get electrified so that we can make it there. If we keep running at the rate we are, where we're burning coal and natural gas to make electricity, we're not going to get there fast enough, and it really isn't going to be as impactful as we think it can be till we get the cleaner sources of power. Just as a wrap up here, we've done a lot of projects all over the state. Our specialty is helping people identify what they actually need. They've always had something that's always worked, but they've never known if it's really the right size or not. And we just wrapped up the Livonia Public Schools project. That was about an 8-year project where we started with replacing all of their boiler systems. And they had 35 buildings that needed to have boilers replaced. And the budget from the engineering team that put the pre-bid together said it was going to cost you right around $36 million to do all that. And they said, oh, no, we're not going to do that because we don't think we need all that. We can't afford all that. So they did something instead that was more intelligent. They actually put in BMS into their building so they could monitor and measure and meter. They put in new demand control ventilation systems on their classroom ventilators. They put in LED lighting. They put in new windows. They put in new flooring. Then they decided they would say, how can we look at what our boiler plants need to be? In the end of the day, the boiler plants were reduced by 2/3. They reduced the capacity by 2/3. They reduced the pumping capacity by almost 90%. Their energy improvement was off the charts, and their $36 million budget got done for just a little bit over $5 million. So significant energy savings, significant cost savings by doing something more intelligent than just swapping like for like, which is what typical happens in replacement projects. And we've been recognized in a recent competition for Healthy Schools for being a retrofit revolutionary, which is an appropriate title because nobody would have done what we have done out of the box because the district wanted to do that. They knew that they needed less, they just didn't know how much less. And so we had to break their systems to find their breaking point. And it was a fun experiment. It was a long journey. It was 8 years with COVID and all the interruptions and all the disruptions. It was quite an adventure, but we're smarter for going through it, and so are they. So, end of the day, we're in this market, been here for a long time. We like to do creative projects. We like to do new and creative things. And if you've got a challenge and you think you need some help, we might be able to give you some insight, whether it's electric or gas. We do both, but the gas side is our forte.
Thank you, Alan. Want to thank everybody for sticking around a little bit after 1 o'clock so we could finish Alan's presentation. I know we had a couple glitches today, so thank you for your patience. We probably don't have time for questions unless people want to stick around. I'm happy to keep this open. I was also going to ask Alan, I don't think I saw your contact info in the presentation slides, but if you'd like to share with the group, feel free to put it in the chat and people can reach out to you directly with their questions.
Okay. Thank you.
So if there are no questions at this time, I will wrap up the webinar. But again, if folks would like to stick on for a few more minutes, happy to do that. All right, well, I'm not hearing any questions. So again, I just want to say thank you so much to our presenters today. We will be sharing a link to the presentation Alan, I was a little mixed up on your slide, so I might see if we can share maybe a PDF to your slide deck, but I'll reach out to you separately.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll look for the link to the recording to be sent out shortly. But thank you, everybody.
Thank you. That was great.
Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good weekend once we get there.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.